Hey everyone, how you doing? This is Amon Green, Green Bay Packers all-time leading rusher, and you're watching Packers Total Access Live, your daily source for Packer content. Go Pack, go!
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. It is December 28th, the day after the thrashing the Packers took to the Baltimore Ravens. Man, just such a tough loss for this team that went in extremely banged up and lost even more players throughout the game. You got to tip your cap to the Baltimore Ravens coming out and winning on both sides of the ball, in my opinion, in the trenches. Really on offense, just controlling the line of scrimmage all night long. It was a tough look for the Packers defense. We'll kind of dive into that. We got a lot of stuff we're going to cover here. I want to apologize for the voice. It's slowly going here as we wake up in the whatever we got going around here at the Bailey Ranch is definitely I don't know. We're in day 2 of this, maybe day 3, I guess, going into day 3. So hopefully it'll get better soon. I have a feeling the worst is yet to come. So we got all day quilled up here. We got a couple of drinks. So if you guys would bear with me, like I said, with the voice and probably talk a little bit slower on this. I usually try to get you guys as much information as short a time as possible. I know everybody's got busy schedules, but today it's going to be hard to do that. So what we're going to dive into, though, we're going to talk about the defensive players sounding off after this tough loss to the Baltimore Ravens. We'll give you a couple sound bites from that. We'll talk about some of the PFF grades and the players that did play well, which it didn't surprise me that LVN ended up being the highest graded player on defense. To me, he looked like he flashed last night. He was one of the only players that looked like they flashed. But I said it in the postgame show. I thought he had a good game. I had people in my mentions talking about LVN was trash, and I'm like, I don't think we're watching the same game here. But there's only so much one player can do. We'll talk about the grades on defense and all that good stuff. We'll also talk about somewhat breaking news from Adam Schefter in terms of who will play next week for the Packers. You know, that's been a big topic of conversation the last 2 or 3 weeks, is how aggressive do you get with your starters, because you know everybody's banged up, and the most important aspect is to go into the playoffs as healthy as you possibly can. I know that seems like it's impossible at this point for the Packers, and I somewhat agree. But, you had to kind of put the NFC North on the back burner if you go that route. We'll talk about what decision it sounds like was made behind the scenes and a little bit about the offense as well. And then we'll end it with Malik Willis, the bright spot of the game last night, and what it may mean for his future. Before we do, if you guys would do that YouTube stuff, hit like, hit subscribe. If this is your first time tuning into PTA, welcome. Thank you for making us a part of your morning. We're not experts. We're not insiders. We're not media members. We're fans just like you, talking Packers on a daily basis. So if you're looking for that type of content, make sure you hit like, subscribe, click the bell icon so you're notified when we go live. All right, let's jump into it. Let's start off with a video that was tweeted out by Dominique Yates from the locker room. This is Javon Bullard. Not happy about the Packers' performance, and rightfully so, last night, specifically on defense. Here's what Bull had to say immediately following that tough loss to the Baltimore Ravens.
Pretty frustrating. But at what point do we gotta? It's on us, really. I'm gonna keep it a buck. It's on us. We basically just got our ass whooped. Call it like it is. Shit. We knew what they were doing. They ran the ball. We couldn't stop fucking around. Point blank period, and we got to fix that shit tomorrow if we want to go past the wild card game in the playoffs. If we don't, we'll be sitting our ass right back in Green Bay.
I like Bullard. Bullard's a no-nonsense kind of guy, and he's a guy that, in my opinion, he's gotten significantly better this year. I love that attitude there, man. We got to fix this crap. Tomorrow, if we want to go past a wild card game in the playoffs, if we don't, we're going to be sitting there, booties right back in Green Bay. I think he's a guy that's kind of emerged this year, and it was really frustrating for me going into that game. Early in the game, several people, I believe, had tweeted out that it was actually Nate Hobbs in the slot when they went to their nickel. Now, keep in mind, you're going to be playing a lot of base defense against a team like the Baltimore Ravens, who play a lot of 21 personnel. You guys seen the big fullback, right, that they had, and I believe it was Ricard, if I remember correctly. But so you're going to see a lot of base packages. What that means is whenever they went to their nickel package, it was Evan Williams and Xavier McKinney in at safety. I agree with that call. We actually pulled Bullard off the field and put Nate Hobbs in. Now, Nate Hobbs ends up getting hurt. He only plays like 13 snaps. But the point is, they went with Nate Hobbs in the slot over Javon Bullard. And I feel like Javon Buller's been playing really good football this year. So I don't understand that, to be honest with you. I don't get that. I mean, I understand I understand why they did it. I disagree with it. It's probably a better way of saying it. They spent money on Nate Hobbs, and you got to get that money on the field. That's what it comes down to, and that bothers me because if that's the case, then Evan Williams maybe wouldn't have gotten his opportunity if they had paid somebody $3 million to play safety, even though Evan Williams flashed from day one as a really good safety. So I just don't like that whole approach, and that's something that's been going on in Green Bay for quite some time. Is once you pay a player, oh nope, he's got to be on the field, even though you're looking behind him and going, that guy right there is definitely showing more promise, more upside, more flash, more talent right now. I feel like Javon Bullard has proven his worth at the slot position, and that kind of bothered me. So that's definitely something I disagree with that the coaches did yesterday for sure, or last night, I should say. Now, Evan Williams also sounded off. This came in from Cameron Azir. I hope I'm saying that name right. You guys go give him a follow over on X. He tweeted this out. It's at Azir Cameron, EZEIRCAMERON. Make sure you go give him a follow. Here's what Evan Williams had to say about this tough loss.
Anytime you come out, you got to have something to prove in this league, on every snap. Otherwise, teams are good enough to come out and embarrass you, like what you just saw. It's just not up to our standard, truthfully. A lot that we can correct, a lot that we can, get back right. But again, it all starts with just, how hard we play, our aggression, our physicality at the point of attack. And we just got to, everybody got to look in the mirror, self-check, and understand that that's not going to get it done moving forward.
Now, you got two different types of leadership right there, right? You got our boy Bull, who's out there like, man, our ass is going to be sitting at home. We don't fix this. And you got Evan Williams, who's bringing a little more calm approach. I love the fact that those are two young players on this defense. And again, if you'll go back to some people are probably going, Clay, why are you not like more up in arms about the defense? The defense is the reason you lost that game, point blank, period, right? If you'll remember going into the season, I said I would expect the defense to take a slight step back because that's typically what happens in year two of a new defensive coordinator. Year one, you kind of catch the league off guard. Year two, they know what you did well and they know how to attack you, right? Now, the X factor was you added Micah Parsons, so that kind of stabilized what you did last year. And I don't, like I said a couple weeks ago, with Micah Parsons out, I don't expect the defense to just all of a sudden be horrible. I don't. But you're getting back to where that baseline is of what we talked about. I think they will take a slight step back. Now, last night, that was a horrible performance. There's no two ways about it. But you also got to take into consideration the fact that you don't have a 3-tech. Devontae Wyatt's on injured reserve, right? Like we said, Micah Parsons, you kind of built this defense around him since August. He's no longer on the field. And now you're looking up at your interior defensive line, which is where they really bullied you last night. And you got Carl Brooks. You've got Nazir Stackhouse, Warren Brinson, insert a name, right? There was a player, Jordan Riley got some meaningful snaps last night. As a matter of fact, let's just put the snap count on the screen here before we move on to the next topic. Well, actually, we're going to talk a little PFF as well before we move on. So when you look at the snap count, and it was Rob Demoski that tweeted this out. He just quoted Javon Bullard, the thing that we just heard there, right? The sound bite. But when you zoom in, if I can zoom in here, when you look at the snap count from last night, okay, on defense, Xavier McKinney led the way with 76 snaps, Edgerrin Cooper 76, Quay Walker 76, Keyshawn Nixon 74, Kingsland Igbare led all edge defenders with 60 snaps, Carrington Valentine 59, Carl Brooks 56. So there you go. So your defensive tackle, your top defensive lineman on your defense right now is Carl Brooks. That's essentially what it comes down to in terms of interior defensive lineman. Guys, that's not good enough. It's too important of a position. And I know anybody who watches this channel consistently, you're tired of hearing me say that. I'm tired of saying it. But in case we got new viewers, I want to make sure our stance is very clear here. It's why we always say 3-tech is a tier 1 position of importance, just like edge defender is, right? And now essentially what you've got is you've got Rashawn Gary on the heavy decline. And again, there's been rumors that people are asking, like, is he hurt? Why is he getting less snaps? Blah, blah, blah. He graded out decent last night, believe it or not. His PFF grade was a 64.6. That's not bad. That's not a bad PFF grade, right? But when you look at his snaps, 34 snaps. So again, it happens again. Enigbare leads all edge defenders. Okay, so that's your top edge defender. If I remember correctly, Enigbare was a 5th or a 6th round pick. So your number one position of importance is a 5th to 6th round pick last night. And then an equal tier 1 of importance position in defensive tackle, and specifically 3-tech, Carl Brooks was your leading interior defensive lineman. Guys, there's not a team in the league that would pay either of those players over $10 million a year. So that's why when you look at this and you couple everything together with all the injuries, it's not surprising that they got the ball ran down their throat. And it's why it won't be surprising if they can't win even one playoff game in the playoffs this year. I don't think it's impossible, and a team can get hot. We've seen that before, and we always keep referencing back to 2010 where the Packers got hot and went on and win the whole thing. But keep in mind, the Packers had the best defense in the league in 2010. They had the number 1 defense in the league in 2010, and a young and emerging superstar quarterback in Aaron Rodgers, who wasn't quite there yet, but boy, oh boy, did he turn it on in the Super Bowl. So that's where the problem lies there. Moving along here with the snap count, Evan Williams, 70% of the snaps with 53 snaps. Kobe Wooden there with 52. Now, Kobe is your nose tackle. Carl Brooks is your 3-tech, right? So, again, where was Kobe Wooden drafted? Wasn't he like a 5th or a 6th round pick as well? You're not putting enough capital in to that 3-tech position. And, again, people will mention Kenny Clark from time to time. Well, yeah, you're missing Kenny Clark. Kenny Clark played nose. He wasn't the 3-tech. And people thought he was going to play 3-tech when Jeff Hafley got here. Now we're going to do this one-gap approach. Now, they put Kenny in a touch spy, whether it was the foot injury / ankle injury that he had that played a role in that, possibly, could have been, right? But nonetheless, man, the defensive front, you're just not good enough in the trenches on both sides of the ball. It's outside of quarterback and head coach, it should be your top priorities. Is making sure you get the tackle position really, really stable, tackle and center, in my opinion. And we kind of did that backwards, right? You got a 7th round pick starting at left tackle. He's not one of the best tackles in the game. I think he's a good tackle, a good left tackle, maybe above average to good in Rasheed Walker. Zach Tom, who is a great borderline elite right tackle, he was out of the game last night, right? So, of course, that's going to play a role in the running game. And then your center got hurt. He's on season-ending IR, Elton Jenkins. So now you got Sean Ryan in there, who, by the way, missed some significant practice time this week because he was battling the illness that was going around. I think that they said affected 6 different players. So it's kind of I will say this, going into the playoffs, you now have probably 2 weeks to kind of get right until, you got a full week of preparation here and then another full week where we'll talk about whether we're going to set the starters or not here in a second. This gives you a little bit better chance of, I don't mean to laugh, but it's like, it gives you a little bit better chance of trying to, okay, I feel like the product we're going to put on the field in a couple of weeks is going to be better than the product we put on field yesterday and better than the product we're going to put on the field, next weekend as well for week 18 against the Minnesota Vikings. So, So again, that's just kind of a quick look. Warren Brinson, another guy, 34 snaps, guys. That's a significant amount of snaps for an interior defensive lineman. And again, that was a guy that was a 6th round pick this year, right? So it is what it is. And you can see we didn't even have our boy Nas Stackhouse active, right? So it was Bohanna in the middle. There were 15 snaps, Jordan Riley with 11. And one of those guys ended up leaving the game too, right? So, yeah, it's a tough look overall. LVN, 62% of the snaps, 47 snaps. He outsnapped Rashawn Gary. Again, these little hints that Gary might be hurt and they're holding it close to the vest. I don't know. He doesn't look hurt to me. It just looks like he's hit the wall, and this will probably be his last year. And you guys know I've been the president of the Rashawn Gary fan club, right? There comes a time when it's time to move on from a player. That was not last year. That was not the year before, especially with the cap hits being very, very reasonable then. But now you're having that conversation because it looks like to me, honestly, LVN should replace Rashawn Gary, and Micah Parsons will be opposite him on the other side of the defensive line, right, at the edge position. So when you look at it in that perspective, Kingsley Enagbare will hit free agency. Someone will probably overpay him a little bit. So now what it's going to be is LVN, Micah Parsons on the edge if you decide to move on from Rashawn Gary. That's what I would do unless he's willing to take a significant pay cut. Okay, that's just how I would approach that. I would love to have Gary back. I think he's still a solid piece to this defense, especially against the run. He's been arguably our best run defender on the defensive line. I think Micah Parsons definitely surpassed him in that regard, but very, very underrated run defender is Micah Parsons. But nonetheless, Rashawn Gary could be a key piece to this defense against the run moving forward, but not at the price tag of $28 million cap hit next year. And again, you could cut him outright, free up $11 million in cap space next year immediately. You could trade him and try to get a little bit of draft capital, and the majority of the guaranteed money is gone. So that would be an easy cap hit for another team to absorb, obviously, because just the guaranteed money accelerates to you as if you were just cutting him outright. You could do it a post-June and free up even more cap space. There's a lot of – we'll get into that in the offseason. But if he's willing to take a pay cut and you can lower that cap number to a reasonable number, I think it would be a good piece to have still on this defense. It's just not at the number that you got right now. So with that being said, PFF grades real quick. This is what I want to talk about. Lucas Van Ness, 80.6. This is what I seen last night. You guys know on the post-game show, I told you that people were tweeting at me that Lucas Van Ness was garbage. It was a swing and a miss on that pick, and I felt like he was one of the bright spots last night, man. I felt like that he played pretty effective. I said that on the postgame show before we seen these, so this isn't Monday morning quarterback in here. This is simply – it looked like it on the TV copy, and sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong. There you have to go back and watch the box cam and really get a good picture of what a player does, but it looked like he flashed to me last night. PFF agreed, 80.6 with a 75.1 run defense grade, 76 tackle grade, and a 69.6 pass rush grade. Kamal Hadden only played 6 snaps, 76.0. His season's over, it looks like, most likely. It sucks to see that happen. Nate Hobbs scored a 68.2, but again, only 10 snaps. Is what they're showing here according to PFF. And then Edgerrin Cooper, Kingsley Enagbare, Keyshawn Nixon, Rashawn Gary, they round out the top 7 with that. Bullard, a 58, right? Now, again, he ended up playing 38 snaps, but it was because Nate Hobbs got hurt, if my memory serves me correctly. So that's just a quick little example of Lucas Van Ness is probably going to be your edge on the opposite side. And again, this isn't just one game. Lucas Van Ness has played pretty good this year. 68, 52, 89, 65, 69, 54, 53, 65, 80. He's got a PFF grade this year of 75.5. And you see the big jump here from last year's 52.9 on 458 snaps, only 263 snaps this year because he was hurt. But nonetheless, 75.5 is solid for LVN. So I think you got to move forward. Unless Gary takes a pay cut, it's going to be LVN, Micah Parsons. LVN will now take on that role of stopping the run, kind of like what Gary has. You'll have Micah Parsons rushing the quarterback predominantly, and then you can kind of mix and match everything else in between. But again, edge being a tier 1 position of importance, you never stop going after another player at that position. You can't do that. You've got to continue to swing. Just like defensive tackle. Now, I would prioritize defensive tackle and offensive line. If I'm going in this offseason, I'm going to try to bring as much of this team back as physically possible, and I'm going to go try to bolster the interior defensive line and the interior offensive line. Well, you got to determine who's going to be your starting left tackle if Rasheed Walker does walk in free agency, right? But focus on the trenches, man. Got to focus on the trenches this offseason. We said it last year. And they definitely did it on offensive line. They went and got Aaron Banks. That seems to be a swing and a miss. That's another player. Probably want to try to move on from him if you can, because you're gonna free up. It ain't very much money, but it's enough money to go. All right, I don't want him starting in guard. That's just me personally. I don't want him starting period. We're kind of seen enough there, if you will. And you guys know I was hesitant on getting into that too heavy earlier this year, because it's like, man, he came into training camp, he got banged up, he never really got a fair shake, a good full run at it. Well, now we're in week 18. We're in week 7, just finished week 17, going to week 18. Just hasn't been there, man. Hasn't been there. So it looks like the chat pretty much agrees with me on the trenches there. I see you, Ari Ironminer. It's tough. But anyway, if you guys are watching this video back later, let us know what you think about the players, what Evan Williams and what Javon Bullard had to say about that game. Make sure you let us know in the comments. Hit like, subscribe, click the bell icon so you know anytime we do shows like this live in the future. Let's shift gears now and talk about next week. And somewhat breaking news here, I guess you could say. Again, we're all thinking it, but Adam Schefter tweeted it out. And listen, the reason I'm highlighting this tweet is because there's a reason Schefter tweeted this out. And it was Zach Cruz that reposted it. It popped up on my timeline. So shout out to him. So if Adam Schefter tweeted this out, and notice how it's worded, with Green Bay locked into the NFC's number 7 seed, they are expected to rest key players next week. Where did that come from? That did not come from an agent. That did not come from a player. That had to come from someone within the building, right? So Adam Schefter tweeting that out tells me someone within the building told him, hey, we're playing. Yeah, we're just going to sit everybody down. We're going to use it as an extra bye week. This can be somewhat of a blessing, right? That you essentially get a bye week next week to get everybody rested up and good to go. And another thing that it does too is you don't spend a whole lot of time on your game plan with Minnesota. You keep it, it's almost like a preseason game. You keep it very vanilla, and you've got 2 weeks, really a week and a half, if you will, to prepare for the potential matchups in the first round of the playoffs. So what you'll start to do as a coaching staff, and again, that's what we try to do, is give a little insight on this particular program on how the Packers front office and coaching staff kind of looks at things, roster moves, roster projection, modeling the roster out 2 and 3 years in advance. Same thing with game planning for the coaches. They're looking at probably their top 2 opponents that they're most likely going to be facing, and they'll go ahead and start to formulate 2 game plans around playing those 2 teams, right? And then as you get a little closer and that locks in, all right, throw that other game plan out the window. Let's really key in on this. So you're going to look to find commonalities in between the 2 game plans for the 2 different teams that you might potentially face, so you can really maximize that extra time you got in constructing a game plan to get ready to play that team, if that makes sense. So again, I thought this was interesting that Adam Schefter tweeted that out. That had to come from someone within the building. The decision's been made. We're going to sit the starters and rest are the key players, if you will. There'll still be some starters out there on the field, don't get me wrong, because you can't just play all the backups, or else you're not going to have hell, last night we almost ran out of players. We were 1 bad snap away the week before with Josh Jacobs playing emergency quarterback, right? So you got to take those things into consideration as well. Again, week 18 is going to mean nothing to this team, okay? I would love to create some momentum. That would be awesome. If you could still beat the Vikings, that'd be great. But the top priority, as I said a couple of weeks ago going into Chicago, is, man, don't play players if you're going to risk getting them even further injured, right? In terms of someone who's dealing with an injury that you could potentially make that injury worse, because the playoffs are the number 1 priority, whether you think we have a legit shot to win in the playoffs or not. And if you have that opinion, I can understand that opinion, man. This team is, like I said, man, it's running out of gas. You just got too many injuries that you're dealing with at the moment. Cameron Azir also tweeted this out: game-ending injuries over the last 3 contests. What does that mean? To the best of my knowledge, what he's saying here, and he did ask, am I missing anyone? I don't know if anybody, it's just memes in the chat, of course, or in the comments. But what he's saying is over the last 3 weeks, these are the players that got hurt, exited the game, and could not return. And in some cases, couldn't even play moving forward, right? Like in Zach Tom's case, who's at the top of the list. Here are all the injuries, guys. This is just in the last 3 games. Zach Tom with the knee, Christian Watson with the chest/shoulder, Micah Parsons with the ACL, Josh Wiley with the concussion, Jordan Love with the concussion, John Fitzpatrick with the Achilles, Evan Williams with the MCL. We get that confirmed now. Zane Anderson with the ankle, Nate Hobbs with the knee, Jordan Riley with the Achilles, Kamal Haddon with the ankle last night, Dontavion Wicks with the concussion last night. Again, what do you have here? You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 players who have left the last 3, in the last 3 contests, 12 players who have left the game and could not return. I know this isn't a popular take. I know that people love going on to the post-game shows and the day after shows and hearing the hot takes and people getting overly animated and pissed off, and this team's trash. You need to fire that guy. And you need to run him out of town. And that's not what I'm going to give you here. Guys, if you had told me going into the last 3 weeks, hey, guys, you're going to lose 12 players in those games that can't return to those games, I'm going to go, boys, we probably lost every damn game. That's a lot to overcome, considering you already had everything going in, right? So, again, it's just a tough look. He asked, am I missing anyone? I know the NFL is a physical league, but the Packers can't catch a break. Again, some people say it's not the year. Other people say, oh, you're making excuses with injuries. Okay, if you're going to stand on that, you're making excuses with the injuries, then what you got to stand on is in the off season. Let's say you go into this to 2027 or 2026 rather, and say, okay, we're going to go into 2026. We're going to cut enough players to go into 2026, and we're going to be $60 million under the cap. Do you think that team's going to compete? It's not going to happen. So if you don't agree with that stance, you can't agree with the injuries don't matter. The injuries matter. They matter tremendously. So again, just a tough break for the Packers team down the stretch. Josh Jacobs kind of gave his opinion on this as well, and it was Cameron Azir that tweeted this out. Make sure you guys go give him a follow. Like I said, retweet this video out as well. Here's what Josh Jacobs had to say after the game. Obviously, a leader in the locker room, and his snap count was very, very interesting. I don't know if you guys noticed, but it was, I think, 13 snaps is what Josh Jacobs had. So, again, why did the running game not get going last night? Why were we thrown all over the yard? Kind of feels like this team, this organization made the decision early. All right, let's just start pulling guys out. Once they started to lean on us and run the ball real heavily, and they were successful with it, I think this coaching staff started making decisions, playoff decisions of let's get these guys out of the lineup. That's why you didn't see Josh Jacobs very much at all last night. But here's what Josh Jacobs had to say after the game.
I think that we got to be realistic. I think is when you look in the mirror, you can't really just overstep or bury certain things. I think you got to be overly honest with yourself. Even the plays where you might have had a okay play, it's a lot of things that could have been better. And I think once we collectively, take the responsibility of our individual, actions on that field or even throughout that week, then until we do that and address that and be 100% honest with the man in the mirror, then we'll start getting the results that we want.
Love the accountability there. Love the accountability. Josh Jacobs is such a stand-up dude. I'm glad he's a Green Bay Packer. It's a tough look for this team. It really is. But you could tell the players in the locker room, they're not accepting it as, well, this is just the way it is. It's, hey, no matter who's out there, you got to go play your assignment. You got to go do the best you can. It's what Evan Williams is talking about. It's what Josh Jacobs is talking about there. So, again, when you look in terms of what the plan was last night and the plan moving forward, it kind of felt like halfway through that game, they already shifted gears, they being the coaching staff, into, all right, let's shut this down, start to pull some people, and anyone who's banged up at all, let's get them out of the game, and let's go ahead and press forward. And again, that might be why Gary's snap count was so low as well. It could be. Again, is he hurt? I don't know. Nobody can confirm that. But I think it's also one of those things. Like, here's the point. The people who are piling on the Rashawn Gary got benched, then you got to say Josh Jacobs got benched too. They're not saying that, are they? Because they know Josh Jacobs is a great football player. Now, those same people like to pretend like Rashawn Gary is a horrible football player. I've seen the screen grab of him getting pancaked where he slipped and fell face down, and the guys, it's funny, they don't show the play. They just show the screenshot of him on his face, right? It's again, Josh Jacobs, why aren't they showing screenshots of Josh Jacobs with 3 rushing yards, 4 rushing yards, whatever it was? Because, again, that's not the popular thing to do. If someone were to do that, they would get raked over the coals on social media, because the popular thing has become to blame Rashawn Gary anytime anything goes wrong for the defense, right? And they tried to do that with LVN last night, but people pushed back a little bit. Again, I think Gary's time in Green Bay is probably done after this year. I'm not saying he's going to be back. I'm not saying he deserves to be back at $28 million cap hit. I feel like his best football is probably behind him, right? But you got to call a spade a spade. If you're going to say Rashawn Gary was benched, then you got to say Josh Jacobs was benched. And the one commonality is it kind of feels like this coaching staff shifted gears into, okay, playoff mode. Let's shut these guys down. It was, hey, let's get J.J. Enigbari more snaps. Don't put Rashawn in as much, and so on and so forth. So that's kind of what it feels like to me. But I'd like to know what you guys think. In the chat, let me know if you're watching this video back later. How do you feel about the Adam Schefter news there that someone within the building told him, hey, look, they're not going to play key players next week, and they're going to kind of look to prepare for the playoffs? Do you think it's the right move? Do you think, no, it's worth it just to play everybody who could possibly play, try to create some momentum going to the playoffs? I think that's a reasonable take too. Let us know in the comments what you think. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, click the bell icon so you know when we go live here on PTA in the future. Now, let's shift gears to talk about a bright spot. Okay, hopefully we got some of the negative out of the way. Typically people, oh, Clayton, you're just glass half full. You never report on what's actually happening, blah, 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 blah. I get that a lot. But we just covered a lot of negative. Would you all agree? So let's talk a little positive for a second. Let's try to wrap it up with a little positive bow on it. And that's our boy Malik Willis, man. What a night he had. Kyle Malzahn tweeted this out. Malik Willis will hit free agency after the season. He proved to be a starting quarterback in the NFL throughout his 2 seasons with the Packers. He's had 6 passing touchdowns, 3 rushing touchdowns, no interceptions, 977 yards passing, 261 rushing. His pitch is simple. Quote, what you put on the tape is your pitch. Here's what Malik had to say after the game last night. Stand up dude, hell of a football player, going to make a lot of money somewhere. Here we go.
I think that what you put on tape is your pitch, and obviously any opportunity, it would be a blessing. And you want to think about that type of stuff, but can't worry about tomorrow. Today have enough problems of its own. We got to figure out how to get back on track here.
I love it. Again, he steers it right back in the direction of the Packers, man. We gotta focus on how to get it back on track here, right? Don't worry about what's going on tomorrow. Today's got enough problems, right? Malik Willis is a stand-up dude. It's gonna suck to see him leaving free agency, but that's probably what's going to happen, right? Now, I was going through and looking, at some of the comp pick, what would a comp pick look like? And we are qualified to get a comp pick for him if he hits free agency. And it was saying, if his price range is in the $5 to $8 million range, if that's what he gets, and you'll get a 5th round pick back, right? Guys, if you can get Malik Willis back as your backup quarterback for $10 million or less, you need to do that, right? That needs to be a top priority. Now, I'm going to say something here. It's going to be controversial, okay? And I don't mean it to be controversial. I've been very vocal that Jordan Love is a better quarterback than Malik Willis. However, if you have an opportunity to have arguably the best backup quarterback in the league, right, you need to do that for $10 million or less. And maybe someone can justify $12 million or $15 million. Maybe you can. It's that important of a position. I really believe that. He wasn't enough last night to get you over the hump and win that ball game, right? I don't know if any quarterback would have been able to with them running the ball down their throat the way they did. With all that being said, if you bring Malik Willis back, let's say you get him back on a 2-year deal for $20 million with 15 fully guaranteed, right? And you get in another situation where Jordan Love goes out. I'm not above getting to the point to go, you know what? Malik fits this offense better than Jordan. I'm not there yet. I'm nowhere near there yet. But the people who want to have a conversation about that, a meaningful conversation, a mature conversation, and not one where you just try to paint Jordan Love to be a horrible quarterback, or you try to paint Malik Willis to be, I see people comparing him to Mike Vick now, and it's like, guys, we haven't seen enough to really say that just yet. But these are the type of conversations. I'm going to take you guys way back in the redneck time machine here, okay? We need a segment, the redneck time machine, right? Have a cartoon version of me sitting in one of those old timey bathtubs or something with a flux capacitor on it or something like that, right? But you guys go back to the New England dynasty. They had just paid Drew Bledsoe a ton of money. And then a young Tom Brady emerges, and they had a quarterback controversy down the stretch, right? He decided to start Tom in the playoffs, if I remember correctly, he being Bill Belichick. The rest is history. They moved on from Drew Bledsoe. I think he ended up going to Buffalo, if I remember correctly, right? Division rival. With that being said, you can never say never. Never say never, but never, right? As Mike Tomlin said. If you can get him back to solidify that backup quarterback role so you don't have to roll with someone like a Clayton Tune, right? And that's no shade toward Clayton Tune. He is what he is. He's not a starting quarterback, right? Malik Willis has kind of proven he is a starting quarterback. I think that's a top priority this offseason. Now, do I think it's only going to be $5 to $8 million offer for him? No. I think a team is going to go out there and probably offer him somewhere between 15 and 25 million per. Now, the guaranteed money comes into effect, right? So that's the tough part about this is that Malik Willis is probably going to be a starting quarterback somewhere else. But again, it couldn't happen to a better person. Carson Caldwell, a friend of the show, tweeted this out. Malik Willis finished with a 95.6 PFF grade last night versus Baltimore. That grade is higher than any, in all caps, of Jordan Love's games in his entire career. And then he puts in parentheses, and no, this is not a Malik is better than Jordan boast. I love that he preferenced that, right? Because both things can be true. Jordan can still be a better quarterback, but that stat holds true. A 95.6, Malik Willis went out there on a national stage with pressure. And let's be honest, not the best supporting cast around him either, right? A banged-up offensive line, tight end room completely banged up. That's a big safety valve and a key vital part of the Matt LaFleur offense. So you're without that as well. Your running game was non-existent outside of yourself, being Malik Willis, being able to scramble with the ball and run zone read, right? So he had some pressure on him last night. And boy, did he shine. He went out there and balled out. Now, I'm eager to get into the All-22 because it did feel like the Baltimore Ravens said, we're going to make Malik Willis beat us through the air. And Malik Willis did a good job through the air. But against a defense that may play a little more shell and a little more, hey, we're going to force you to take what's underneath. Maybe he doesn't have that much success, right? But nonetheless, man, he took that opportunity. He ran with it last night. So I thought that Carson Caldwell, I thought he structured this tweet perfectly. It is true that Jordan Love has never had a PFF grade of 95.6, but also he specified, I'm not saying that Malik is better than Jordan. The facts are the facts. So that's the grade. And again, PFF isn't everything, right? Well, another tweet that went out here. Here are the final numbers from the NFL. They tweeted it out. Malik Willis appreciation with the clapping emoji. 18 of 21 passing, 348 total yards, 3 touchdowns. And notice it. I started to say no turnovers. He didn't have any picks, but he did have that 1 turnover. And it's worth mentioning that center snaps the ball, hits Malik in the face mask. They end up fumbling the football, right? So with that being said, is that on Malik? I don't know. Is it on the center? I don't know. Maybe you guys have already heard through the pressers. I haven't heard all the pressers. It got late pretty quick last night, and I was all NyQuil'd up here on the show. But maybe it was on Malik. Maybe those are the type of things that happen when your field general, your starting quarterback like Jordan Love, isn't in the game, right? Those things are going to happen more often than not. Not that they never happen when Jordan's on the field, but more often than not, they're going to happen when your backup quarterback is in the game, right? So again, man, hell of a performance by Malik Willis. He just made himself some money. And again, if it gets over $10 million per and the guaranteed money is, say, more than 70 or 80% of the overall contract, he's going to price himself out of the Packers range. I would be willing to go as high as $10 million per to bring Malik Willis back. So maybe, just maybe, the rest of the league don't see him as valuable as we've seen him, because we've seen it time and time again, him stepping in. With that being said, I think there's a reasonable chance you can get him back for $10 million per. I want to know what you guys think in the comments. What is the number? Average annual value. And I know the guaranteed money matters. Let's just kind of keep it simple and focus on average annual value. How much money per year would you be willing to pay Malik Willis to try to get him back in the building if he's not outpriced, over $15, $20 million? And maybe you see it as, hey, look, I'd give him $20 million right now. Maybe you see it that way. I don't know. And there's always the precedent conversation, right, where Goody's never done this. Goody has never paid a backup quarterback more than $3 million, right? So that's something that comes into play here as well, right? It's not a prediction game. It's, should you, would you be willing to do it, if that makes sense? So Ron Sanville says 100% on Ryan. Matt said they didn't even get to cadence. So he was canning the play. See, and this is the point I'm trying to make, Ron. I said this on the postgame show last night, is if he's used to Jordan get to that can quicker, right? If Jordan comes out and he reads the defense quicker and he goes to the can quicker, then Sean Ryan isn't set and ready for the cadence, right? And ready to snap the ball. Now, of course, Matt LaFleur said he didn't get to the cadence. Both of those things can be true. That's what I was trying to say last night. If Jordan comes to the line and he gets to the can quicker, Sean Ryan's not even set and ready to wait for the cadence, which it sounds like they were going to go on 1, right? So Malik comes out there, takes an extra, split second to read the defense. That's the timing. That stuff matters, man. It matters between the quarterback and the center. You're going to get that when the backup quarterback's obviously in the game, right? So it's just tough. It's tough. It's tough to kind of see that all the way around, right? Greg Taylor in the chat says, Clayton, if Matt is staying, I would keep Willis and I would give him 12 to 14 tops. Matt needs Willis. That if Matt is staying is a wild comment to me, Greg. That's wild to think that Matt LaFleur, with all of these injuries, and you're not the only one. I'm not. This isn't a shot at you. I'm just simply saying there's a portion of the fan base that believes Matt LaFleur is on the hot seat. I cannot get my mind around that. And maybe you feel the same way, and you're just saying if he does stay, because there are some rumblings out there. Maybe that will be it. So, in the streets gaming. Sounds like he's gaming in the streets. We all know this is going to start the Malik Willis over Jordan Love in the media. I'm good with Jordan Love. I love our quarterback. I agree. Completely agree. That's not the purpose of this segment either, is to try to create, oh boy, Malik Willis is better than Jordan. It's just such an important position that I'd be willing to definitely break the precedent that we've shown in the past in terms of paying backup quarterbacks decent money, right? Fishy Thing says, what's the highest QB1 contract out there in the NFL? Take that number, subtract what Jordan makes, give Willis what's left. Okay, interesting there, right? Reef, center needs to play better. Amen to that, buddy. There's nobody disagreeing with you there. That's for sure, man. Greg Taylor says, Willis unlocks Matt as a play caller. I don't think that's a Matt thing. I think that would – anytime you got a quarterback who can run over 20 miles per hour, it's going to put a lot more options on the table, there's no doubt. Now, the question becomes when a team decides to take that away, which Baltimore did not take that away last night, right? We kind of played right into Baltimore's hands. They weren't playing to shut down Malik Willis running the football, right? You've seen one or two spots there throughout the night that popped up on the tape in terms of the TV copy. But I don't think that's necessarily a Matt thing. That's any play caller thing. That's like saying Mike Vick unlocks the play calling for, the player that, the team that he played for at any point. Of course, yeah. When you got a quarterback that can scramble much better than the other starting quarterback, the question is, can Malik Willis hammer those 25-yard corner routes, right? He's got the arm strength. Does he have the accuracy? Does he have the anticipation is the big thing that people don't talk about a lot, right? So, yeah, I'm with you. Iron Miner says nice to have both. That's the perfect scenario, right? There's no two ways about that, man. There's no two ways about that. So, yeah. Again, I think my number's at 10 million. You guys let us know in the comments what you think your number is if you're watching this video back later. And just a quick glance at the offensive side of the ball, there are some more positives that came out of this game in terms of PFF grades, as you can see here. Malik Willis leading the way, 95.6. Look at Christian Watson, guys. 90.7. Lock him up. Give him the bag. You got to wait a full year from the last extension, so we can't do it this offseason. You got to wait until you cross that 12-month calendar. But Christian Watson, he needs to be paid and he needs to be a long-term Packer. Romeo Doubs had a great game, 82.6, only 26 snaps. Christian Watson only 28 snaps, so they're continuing that heavy rotation. And don't look now, boys. Jordan Morgan's playing damn good football at right tackle. I'm telling you, I think Jordan Morgan's your left tackle next year. Jordan Morgan this game, 79.7, okay? And if you look at what he's done at the tackle position, notice all the guard snaps. Every snap this year was the guard position, right? He did have one game embedded in the middle of the season at an 83.5 against Pittsburgh on the road. But at right tackle, he's played right tackle 2 games now, okay? 63.2 last week. This week, a 79.7. So his PFF grade on the year is a 58.7. Still bad, right? But imagine if all of his grades were in the 63 to 79 range. And again, you've got a bunch of 41s, 40, 34, 38 sprinkled in at guard. He is not a guard. He is a tackle, right? And I think he's going to be an even better left tackle than he's shown playing right tackle the last 2 games. So I'm glad that we got those snaps in at tackle for him. I was hesitant originally, right? I was saying, hey, I'd rather him just be a backup and let's start Kennard because I feel like based off of what we've seen from Jordan Morgan, he's more of a left side lineman than a right side lineman. What we're finding with the more information we uncover here is he's more of a tackle than he is a guard, right? Which, surprise, that's what he's played his entire life. I hate that about the Packers, that we always draft a tackle and think, all right, we can put him in at guard, right? So for me, I think this is a candidate to play left tackle next year, or maybe Zach Tom would kick the left tackle. I don't know. He's getting paid great money. We know Zach Tom can do that. He's one of the rare exceptions that he's talked about this in the past in press conferences at his locker is he's talked about how, yeah, it's just something that's never been difficult for me to go from this side of the line to that side of the line. And it's so rare when you hear other offensive linemen talk about that. It's so difficult to be able to switch sides like that. So I think Jordan Morgan could be a key piece here moving forward. But again, just like edge, just like 3-tech, tackle's a tier 1 position of importance, just like quarterback, tier 1 position of importance. If the board says this guy is at the top of your board, is the best player available in any of those positions, at any of those positions, D tackle, specifically 3-tech, edge defender, right? Wide 9, wide 7, those type of looks, quarterback or tackle, you got to pull the trigger. And again, I think Goody agrees with that. You look at his recent history, what has he drafted, right? LVN, edge defender. Tier 1 position of importance, first-round pick, right? Jordan Morgan, tackle. Jordan Love, when he caught all the heat for trading up and taking Jordan Love, right? So, you never roll out them taking a quarterback with an early pick. I know we don't have a first-round pick this year, but with a second-round pick, if the best player on the board is a quarterback, I know it's going to piss the fan base off, but it's that important of a position. If you bring Malik Willis back, you wash all the quarterbacks in the first 3 rounds off of your board, right? It's like, nope, we're not going to even think about taking one unless the board is screaming, this dude is a stud, and somehow he fell to the later rounds, like a young Russell Wilson, how he was pretty dominant early on, right? So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. Yeah, people were talking in the chat here real quick. Let me hit this real quick. Coach Lynn says, agree. I don't think Goody will give up on Banks that quickly. I don't either, Coach. And that's one of those things. It's not what I would do. I would move on and just move on in the sense of we need somebody better at that position. It's not so much of I could care less about the cap and him being on the roster, to be honest with you. Because again, yes, you can get out of it after 1 year. It essentially turns into a 1 year, $26 million deal, and you can free up a significant amount of cap there, a little bit of cap space, but it's more about getting the best 5 out there. But I'm with you. I do not think that Goody will do that, man. It just doesn't feel like he's going to go that route for sure. So, yeah. Fishy Thing says, heard pundits saying it's a bad year to draft a quarterback. We'll dive into that when we build our draft board. It may be. Early on, people were saying, man, there's going to be 6 or 7 first-round quarterbacks. By the end of the year, 2 or 3 of those guys are projected to go outside of the top 3 rounds now, right? But it is going to be interesting. Fernando Mendoza is the big hot topic right now, right? You guys remember going into draft season last year, Carson Beck was the big talk. And then he crapped the bed. And then he ends up transferring from Georgia to Miami. And now he's got Miami in the playoffs, and they're playing pretty good football. So maybe he'll reemerge. I don't know. But again, we'll get into draft talk soon enough. That's right around the corner for sure. So, yeah. With that being said, guys, we're going to wrap it up there. If you guys are watching this video back later, let us know what you think about the Malik Willis talk. Again, let me know in the comments. How much money would you be willing to pay him? Maybe you see him as a better quarterback than Jordan Love. I disagree respectfully, of course, but if that's your opinion, fire them in the comments. Let's hear from it, man. I love going back through the comments and kind of seeing where everybody stands because for selfish purposes, being a Packer fan, I like to kind of question my judgment, question my fandom, and question how I see things. And go, okay, if you get a whole bunch of people saying the same thing, I got to check my ego and be like, okay, maybe I don't know as much as I think I do here. Maybe I'm missing something because the majority of these fans, co-fans, fellow fans, if you will, see it a different way. So let us know in the comments what you think, and make sure you hit like, subscribe, click the bell icon so you're notified when we go live in the future. Appreciate everybody hanging out with us. I'm going to get out of here. I'm sure you're tired of hearing this crackly voice, and I'm going to go take some more Dayquil and try to get over this so we can do another show soon. So thank you all so much for hanging out. Make sure you hit like for us, hit sub, click the bell icon. Thank you, Packer Doug. Appreciate you, buddy. Yeah, let's go watch some ball, but some stress-free ball, right? All day long, NFL football, stress-free. Look at this. 3 minutes, we got games kicking off. This is good timing here. Thank you, Coach. Appreciate you, buddy. Thank you, Marco, for swinging through. Go, Pack, go. It's always go, Pack, go here, man. Everybody have a wonderful day. My name's Clayton. This is PTA. Go, Pack, go.
Here we go. We out.
Bye, guys.